Welcome back to Action 2 News at 5. Today marks 60 years since the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in downtown Dallas. Some of the last surviving witnesses are sharing their stories on the anniversary. Among them is former Associated Press reporter Peggy Simpson.
I was just with a great mass of other reporters, just trying to find any bit of information. And it was just the wild, crazy, chaotic, unfathomable scene.
Simpson's recollections are included in an oral history collection at the 6th floor museum, which chronicles the assassination of JFK. The museum curator says there are now 2,500 recordings there.
I take great solace in knowing that one of the last happy moments of his life was spent reading this letter.
A local man is sharing a connection to the late president he's only told a few people about. It's about a letter he received as a boy from the White House the day after JFK was shot and killed in Dallas. In a First Alert exclusive, Jeff Alexander details the touching correspondence between JFK and the then little boy.
This entire area is going to be filled with cars.
As executive director of the Automobile Gallery in Green Bay, Darrel Burnett has a keen sense of history, and much of that is likely tied to what happened in his second grade classroom 60 years ago today.
I remember very little about being 7 years of age, as I think most of us do, but I remember vividly the day that Mrs. Courtney, the school principal, came into the room and told us the president had been shot.
3 shots were fired at the president's motorcade.
Frightened and sad, Darrel and the rest of the students were immediately sent home.
With his initial popularity as a president, it was devastating to everyone.
When Darrel arrived home at his family's Illinois farmhouse, he found his mother grieving.
The nation was in shock. It took the nation a long time to get over that because the news was just coming out new every day and every day.
The following morning, Darrel remembers being on the couch, glued to the TV, and coverage of President Kennedy's death. He then felt his mom tap him on the shoulder.
And she simply said, "This came for you in the mail." And I remember just opening it up and staring at it. It's something that will be with me the rest of my days.
Just a month earlier, Darrel had surprised his parents, informing them he was writing the president a letter.
You know, what do you say to a president? What does a 7-year-old say to a president?
There must have been something that was going on in the world at that time that captured my fascination, because I remember sitting on the couch in our living room and writing the letter with one of those old lead pencils on lined paper. And I know it was much deeper than, "How are you? I am fine," which is typically what a young person would write, because keep in mind, this was the first letter I had written in my life, and I wrote it to the leader of the free world.
Staring at the TV and the letter, Darrel couldn't believe what he was holding.
And I'm sure my parents conditioned me, don't expect a reply. I think back to that time, Jeff, how incredible it was for me to even think that he might return a letter, because he was already receiving thousands of letters a week.
Hand-typed on November 13th, 1963, the letter was postmarked on November 21st, the day before JFK's assassination.
Dear Darrel, thank you for your letter to the president. He appreciated your thought and writing and sends his best wishes. Sincerely yours, Evelyn Lincoln, and then Evelyn Lincoln, personal secretary to the president.
After keeping the letter in his room for many years, Darrel finally had it framed. He says what he appreciates the most is the letter's simplicity and the way it encapsulates the way the world was back then.
There wasn't any pomp and circumstance. There wasn't a crest. The envelope says the White House. The stationery says the White House. Pure, simple, direct, and important.
And more meaningful now to Darrel than ever.
To know that this was one of the last happy moments he spent in his life, will stay with me forever.
Jeff Alexander, Action 2 News, Green Bay.